Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Wilton Jackson II. Week 1, which means we had week 0. Yes, let's just get in here and get some HBCU news of the day. We'll get in a little bit into the second segment where we'll really get into this. Everybody knows by now in the HBCU family that Florida A&M wins a thriller over Norfolk State. James Colzie in his debut, which means that's 3 games in a row for the SWAC. 3 first-year coaches get it done in the SWAC. So I'm fascinated to see what that is like in terms of moving forward. Does that mean anything for the Celebration Bowl? We'll see if that's the case. The other thing I thought was fascinating, 1.3 million viewers.
That's huge.
For week 0 in terms of HBCU game held that night between Florida A&M and Norfolk State in that thriller, 24-23. The MEAC SWAC Challenge drew its largest audience ever. The game averaged 1.3 million viewers on ABC and ESPN streaming platforms. The linear audience surpassed the prior all-time high in 2010 by 27%. That's a pretty good statement, I would say.
A lot of eyeballs watching the product.
Yep. Good stuff. Welcome to episode 537 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. Shortly, we just call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, coming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. Enjoyed a nice football week 0, and boy, the slate is full this upcoming week. Looking forward to it. Things kick off Thursday night. And by the way, shout out to all those groups that are going to be getting together for watch parties. You got HBCU football on the television, and why don't you send in some pictures and some video? We see if we can get it up.
Nice tease. And I like the fact you're going to ask them to get those pictures. We'll get them up for sure. Nice tease in that third and fourth segment where we'll start talking about week 1 and see what direction you all want to go. We'll even give some updates in terms of television where you can catch your games if you're not sitting in the stands watching them live, or if you're tailgating, you might be able to watch some stuff whether it's on your streaming platforms, your phone. Some of y'all have your satellites out there, RVs. You know, people do it big now, television, big screens. I don't know what these folks have out here, including all that good food that I'm going to miss this weekend. But that being said, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I had to play catch up on some of the games. Stayed up late. Was getting the boys moved into college and stayed up late watching the games. And then we got this big weekend coming up. Chuck talked about folks having watch parties. I want to know who's tailgating and what you cooking, what's on the grill.
That's interesting. You kind of see the ebb and flow of which direction people want to go. I like that. Wilton, what direction you going?
Man, I'm just glad to be here. It's a Tuesday. I'm still catching up from this weekend in Atlanta.
Wilton went hard in the paint, man.
I
You must think he's still a young man.
You know what? I'm being reminded that I'm not so young. I'm only 31. It is just like good grief. Like
Trust me. Mike will tell you it's all in the mind. But when you start waking up and you feel
it's all in the mind. Mind don't matter.
It moves real quick when they hit you.
That's right. Mind don't matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter.
Absolutely.
Now I like what Charles said. Father Time is undefeated.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Undefeated. Even though we have some folks these days that seem like they're cheating it, but still, at some point, it's gonna get you there. It's gonna get you there. Let me go over some quick kind of news of the day, and then we'll come back for our segment. I want you all to have some time to really break down what you saw in the MEAC SWAC Challenge and what you were thinking about it. MEAC announces update for football broadcasting games. It's going to be fascinating when you look at their marquee games and updates, how that looks. This MEAC ESPNU Game of the Week series kicks off on Saturday, September 21st, when North Carolina Central hosts in-state foe North Carolina A&T State. The following weekend, North Carolina Central and Norfolk will face off in the Circle City Classic at Lucas Oil Stadium on September 28th. October marks the first of 3 MEAC wild card weekends featuring a wild card matchup to be announced in early October, the second weekend of the series, and November 9th, and wraps up November 16th with 1 week remaining in our regular season. All matchups will be announced at least 12 days prior to the game. 2 conference games are scheduled to air on ESPNU on Thursday and Friday nights, as North Carolina Central will face South Carolina State at 7 p.m. on Thursday, October 31st. Howard will take on North Carolina Central at 8 o'clock p.m. on Friday, November 15th in Durham, North Carolina. Fascinating. I kind of noticed, obviously, some of this is about the Classic, but you do see a conference game that is pivoted, playing that conference, which is more early in the season. I'm intrigued to see if you might see a little more of that for the MEAC. Last 2 years, you've seen them push everything to the end of the season and kind of highlight. It'll be fascinating to see will they mix it up as they move forward, or was this just more about the Classic? So I'm intrigued to what that looks like, but fancy to see these big time games. A lot of non-conference games early in the season will be on the ESPN networks. I want to give some love to Barber Scotia College, private HBCU in Concord, North Carolina, courtesy of HBCU Game Day. They have joined the South Athletic Conference as they move back in the mix in terms of how they will be looking forward. So it's fascinating to see what that looks like. As Barber Scotia's president, Chris V. Ray, JD, remarked, quote, "We're thrilled to join the new South Athletic Conference. The membership opens doors for Barber Scotia College to engage with a new generation of student athletes, advance our institutional goals. The new South Athletic Conference, established in 2020, includes small colleges and universities across the Southeast." The commissioner, Mike Davis, noted, quote, "After this, visiting the campus and meeting with President Ray and the board of trustees, I was impressed by their vision and leadership and commitment to rejuvenating Barber Scotia aligned with our conference values. The NSCA Board of Directors is pleased to welcome the Sabres into the conference." Kind of intrigued to see what that looks like. Atlanta Falcons with the Wells Fargo Partnership Fellowship Program for HBCU students. I think that's a big deal. Arthur Blank is all in on HBCU. Every time we look up, Atlanta Falcons are announcing some partnership that involves HBCUs, whether it's the donations of the field we talked about. Obviously, he supported the HBCU Hall of Fame and many more things as of note. So fascinating to see that he continues to put his money where his mouth is. So I appreciate that. With that, let's go into our first segment, come back and see what you all have to say about this MEAC SWAC Challenge. I'm fascinated. I was sitting up there in the booth with Charles, and we saw really 2 halves of a game and flows and things of that nature. See Wilton doing his thing, making sure that he had his copious notes. Mike, I'm sure, between being on assignment, he made sure he saw the game. He's part of those viewership numbers. So we will see what each of you think when we turn the page. After this segment, we'll come back and get those thoughts.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be. You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel. Yes! That's how you waffle!
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer. Go for key. Even the ultimate pool float inflator. With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here? I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield Technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Wilton Jackson II. Let's get into this matchup. I had this listed as the number 13 Norfolk State Spartans coming out of the MEAC facing the number 2 Florida A&M Rattlers that we all know won the HBCU championship last year. Consensus at the Division I level, as they were able to get it done, rallying to beat Howard. They had to rally again in this matchup, 24-23. They were down 4 at halftime, 14-0 early in that matchup. Interesting to see how that went about it. But I'm curious, starting with you, Charles, as you were there on assignment, literally sitting as we do when we kind of go back and forth and have all the devices on. I like to listen to the game in terms of the broadcast, so I have it playing and have my earpieces in to listen to that, but I'm also visualizing. And I get a couple of breaks and I'll poke over, talk to you, give you some updates in terms of what they may have seen that we are not getting updates other than the score, first downs, and things of that nature throughout the game. With all that being said, where do you go in terms of what you saw in this matchup?
I think one of the huge storylines coming into this HBCU football season is the bevy of new quarterbacks. And I think that was huge when you take a look at what Daniel Richardson was able to do. 22 of 30, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. More importantly, no interceptions, didn't turn the ball over, was efficient in his passing, completing 70% of his passes. I think that was huge. So first, as Mike likes to say, data point. That was a data point answer. So that was huge. But I think the biggest thing that you take is that championship DNA is still flowing within this Rattler program. They got punched in the mouth, 14-0. And they held serve. They came back, fought their way back into this game. And probably the most impressive thing, 24-23, 6 minutes and some change on the clock. Norfolk State never got an opportunity to touch the ball again. That was impressive.
That was impressive. A 6+ minute drive. We haven't seen that in a while. You always talk about the 2 minute when you're coming from behind and we've seen some thrilling victory. But to know you have the lead, can you hold on to it and literally just refuse to give the ball back? And most of that was done on the ground. After they had some big momentum plays in the air, the fact that they were able to lean on Norfolk and get it down on the ground, I thought was a major statement. So I agree with that analysis. That being said, let me go to Mike and see what stood out to you in terms of this game. What type of data points, speaking of data points, as Charles mentioned in regards to what you always like to look at, what data points are you bringing up today?
Well, number one, the pass to run ratio for FAMU was 60-40, give or take. They had 30 attempts on passing and about 24, 25 attempts on rushing. But here's the deal. Norfolk State only attempted 9 passes and ran the ball most of the time. And most of the yardage, they were getting chunks of yardage in the first and second quarter, it appeared to be. And it looks like, they did a much better than anticipated job against the run, against that defense, that vaunted defense of Rattler. So I think their ability to, at the end of the game, end up with 230 some odd rushing yards, 229 to be exact. To me, that's a data point. Should they have continued to run the ball more? So that's a question that a lot of folks asked on a lot of the social media pages as well. I think Mr. Richardson performed very well. 22 of 30. I think Charles was saying it. 3 TDs, but the biggest thing is no mistakes. So no turnovers. I think that's the second data point that enabled them to come over. But if you look at this game, Norfolk State won the first half. I think they were up 14-10. And if you look at those statistics, that rushing, they were 140, 150 yards in the first half. No one could have told me they expected that amount of yardage against a FAMU defense coming from Norfolk State, who finished dead last in the MEAC. Data point. Norfolk State made a statement. They're going to be much better than anticipated in the MEAC. But that was a couple of my takeaways from this game.
Yeah, I was fascinated when you talk about Norfolk being able to run the ball. And I think sometimes those yards were deceptive because they got the 80 yards on the one play. That was huge, right? That really scales it.
Yeah.
But as we watched the game in the first half, they were chugging away. And even without that 80-yard play, they seemed to be able to get 5, 6, 7 yards a clip. Now, since then, we've had a chance, the post-game, obviously the media day today, and it sounded like Coach was talking about making some adjustments on defense, which may obviously benefited them in the second half. So I'm not so sure that Norfolk State really got away from the run. I think FAMU just did a little better job in stopping them in the second half. Because when you look at it, particularly when he was stopping the big-time running back that was getting it done, he only had, 20, 30-some yards the second half. Obviously, they were still able to run, generally speaking. But it's fascinating when you see those different sides, and that's why we're on here to discuss it. And I want to go to Wilton to see, both Mike and Charles brought up some salient points in terms of what they saw in that game. What did you see? You were there as well as us, sitting in a different angle, probably getting different conversations going back in that role where you were. What did that look like, and what came to mind as you were watching this game?
I think for me, you couldn't have paid me to think that FAMU would have been down 14-0 to start this game. You couldn't have paid me any money to think that, number one. Number two, I knew obviously Norfolk State was a team that liked to run the ball. That's been consistent with them. But you never would have made me think on the very first play of the game, an 82-yard run for a touchdown. And the massive amount of chunks that they were able to, and they weren't running like off to the flats, to the left, to the right. They were running right down the heart of FAMU's defense. And I was like, am I really watching this? Like, this is a thing. And I remember turning my head to the FAMU beat writer, to G. I said to him, I said, what would the morale be in Tallahassee if FAMU lost this game? He said, I don't even want to think about it. I said, well, you know what? Watching this first half, you might want to consider it, because this, I'm not saying they were going to lose, but I just said to myself, like, this is something that you might want to, like, really think about, because I just didn't see that happening. But beyond that point, I'll say this, and I think either Charles or Mike said this. After watching this game, I think FAMU is still where we thought they would be in terms of being, you know, a dominant force. They're going to be a dominant force this season, but it also begs me the difference to say Norfolk State is not going to be as bad as they once were. And I think you could kind of gauge that and listen to the press conference after the game and what some of the comments of Dawson Odoms had to say. He wasn't like snappy, but he was just kind of saying like, you know, the media, we've been looking for a story, and you know, we got a really good team. Well, we know what we've seen, like Mike said, we've seen the last 2 or 3 years that they couldn't stop the run. Well, in this particular case, we know what they did in this particular game. So I think it goes to show that, like, the MEAC, even in the teams that we think are going to be strong, which they likely will be until proven otherwise, Norfolk State, again, only from week 1 or only from week 0, can we say that, like, they're gonna be a tough outing if they continue to make those adjustments.
Absolutely, great points made there in terms of the matchup as well as looking forward. I know coming in out of the MEAC football media day, there were a lot of folks that were questioning whether Norfolk should be number 5. But to your point, I don't think anybody thought they were going to perform at this level, particularly once you heard that the perceived number 1 quarterback projected, who was obviously first team all conference, was announced a week before the game that he wasn't going to play for 4 games. Dawson Olson said also in the media, just to give some people some updates, that they had an idea that this was going to happen back since January, February. And so they started planning recruiting to move in a different direction to make sure they were prepared for that. And you can see that to his credit. Obviously, they're waiting for an NCAA decision. And I think they felt a little bit of gratitude that it was just 4 games. It sounds like they may have been concerned. It's been longer than that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's kind of what I saw there. It's going to be fascinating. I think we have some folks that, like you said, jump on Dawson Odom, those supporters saying, see, we told you. Other ones are going to say the opposite. See, he lost it again. I thought people may have went a little overboard with the 2-point conversion in terms of that. Yeah. I certainly understand people question it, but I don't think it was that bad. I personally was more concerned with the play he ran.
Yeah, I saw the play. I saw the telecast, and I would like to know what you saw there at the game, because sometimes what you get in the telecast is different than what they were saying. It was about, I wouldn't have done that. But I, like you, I was wondering, why call that play? They had a plethora of other plays may have been more successful or not. But, why call that play? I don't necessarily have a really quorum with him deciding to go for 2. I really don't. It's just the exact play he did. So I was wondering what you guys saw at the game, what you were hearing, because I just went off what I heard on the telecast.
Charles instantly took my earpieces out. He wanted to make sure I could hear it. Well, I don't get it. You don't get nothing with the play. And he was absolutely correct in that analysis. What does the 2-point give you? You still got to stop them. We said that didn't happen.
Yeah.
They still could have had a chance to get the field goal. You need to get the ball back. And I was like, maybe he was just concerned that even if he stopped them and forced them in a field goal, that he didn't trust his field goal team. I mean, they mixed the extra point. They got blocked. Fortunately, there was offsides. They missed it earlier. Hindsight is 20/20. Or maybe he just thought he was sending a message to his team that we're going to go for it and be aggressive. But to Charles' point, and I'll let him jump in here so he can provide his own clarity. But he instantly, it wasn't just what dude talking about ESPN. I wouldn't do that. No, he says why. He did not understand and was begging for me to try to give him analysis why. And I've since thought maybe some things I could give him. But at the time, I had nothing.
Well, I thought there was just still plenty time on the clock to not quote unquote like press the panic button right there. But I you take a look at the totality of it. There was a penalty that moved the ball closer. They did have some issues. That kick had just got blocked. They had a bad snap on a prior field goal. So I think the totality of it, I think I'm a little easier now in hindsight looking at why. But we can all second guess the play call. I think I said to you, Doc, fam, you was selling out on the run. Play action would be perfect down here. But the play call was what the play call was. So you can't live with the consequences. But I think overall, I have to caution myself. You're right. Norfolk State did look really good playing with a backup quarterback. Let's give it a few more weeks before we say they're going to be one of the top teams. I think we still have to take a look at the rest of the MEAC.
I agree there.
I like this. Get off the ledge. Get back on the ledge. Right. Wilton, let me let you get this in terms of that particular play. Obviously, you hear coaches tell you all the time, one play doesn't win or lose a game. But that seemed the one play in a lot of people's mind that really kind of stood up beyond maybe some of the others. What were your kind of thoughts in terms of that? Was that something that you instantly said, why? Or were you like, no big deal?
So I'm under the impression that if it works, you're a hero. And if it doesn't work, you lost the game. And my thing is, if you're going to do it, it better be a great play. At least a decent play that looks as if it's going to get the 2-point conversion. And I'm kind of like, I guess I'm kind of in between, because I'm like, Charles, when I'm watching this play, I'm like, this don't look good. It just did not look good. And when it didn't happen, I was like, well, you took a chance, but at the same time, it's like you still had time on the clock left. So I wasn't mad about him making that decision to go for 2. I was not mad at all. But when you make that decision to go for 2, you got to get it, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to argue with that one. If you go for it, you better get it in terms of what took place. But a lot of good things in this game. You're right. The excitement around the game, the build-up continues to really go well. The pregame battle between the bands as they're on the side where you have the actual sponsors of the game that have a booth. It was packed. So people are coming early to celebrate. When we got out there, obviously we got the chance to do our live broadcast on BCSN. Shout out to John Grant. That was significant and nice to be able to provide that. And we had a lot of fans that came over there.
Tremendous
really pleased to see us, acknowledge us. We got to switch out and provide different contents. I thought Roy, when he provided some panning shots of the crowd, I thought that was a nice touch to make sure people could see that.
Yep.
Obviously, on the side we were on, we were next to the Norfolk State alumni, which was packed. They were going down. FAMU was right next to them. Then you had the vendors, very good in terms of the vendorship and the food. They got some of our money for sure. So that means they did a good job in terms of making sure they lifted me out of my wallet. So shout out on that. Shout out on John Grant in terms of didn't see any issues in terms of people celebrating, getting into the game wasn't a problem. And obviously when you get a crowd of over 22,000, one of the top crowds in the history of the MEAC SWAC Challenge, particularly when you think about it being in Atlanta with the new setup right at the top. Charles, you want to put a
great
job
pin on it? Great job, FAMU's fan base and Norfolk State's fan base for making that trip over to Atlanta. Tremendous atmosphere. I can't even say enough about the environment. This game, it just continues to grow and grow and grow. And shout out to John Grant, doing a tremendous job with a Celebration Bowl and the MEAC SWAC Challenge.
Yep, shout out to John Grant, particularly when he would told everybody that would listen to him. He said the old ball coast might shock some people. It was that close. In terms of what took place. And to the point, let's say they scored the 2-point conversion, even though we mad about the call or not, if they didn't or kicked the field goal, the way that FAMU was able to move down the field, it wasn't like they weren't going to be able to get a touchdown on field goal anyway. What did Blow say? How is he feeling today? Not too bad.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Tell him to get off the ledge, Sean. Do your official off the ledge.
Lennon, it's okay to get off the ledge. Just one game. It's game one.
With that being said, we'll be right back after this break, and we're going to transition from week 0. Shout out, before I do that, shout out to Delaware State, late game. Some people I saw that got out there, I thought they represented themselves. I popped the very first part of the game, and then I had to go to sleep. But I woke up, and I always checked the stats, and obviously it was a tie game in the third quarter as they came from back after being down 14-0. Obviously, Hawaii went ahead and scored a couple of more touchdowns to pull away. But the fact that they had it tied in the fourth quarter, I thought made a statement in terms of Delaware State, particularly when you think about the fact the trouble they had flying there in such a long flight. But credit to them. With that, we'll put a button in that. Week 0, we're going to transition to week 1, and we're going to get these gentlemen to talk about what games they have an interest in, and when they do that, they'll break it down. So I'll give you a list of what that looks like. We'll come back on the other side and tell you where you can go and check out all your HBCU games, where you can see them located, because AD Drew just did a great job of breaking it down. So we'll give you that information on the other side. Stick with us. We'll be right back after our second break.
Hey, grab me one too.
Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be. You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel. Yes! That's how you waffle!
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator. With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, because he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'm really excited. Got this information. We look at week one. AD Drew provided a list of the national networks that will be broadcasting the game this weekend with the times and the station and the platform for each game that is going to be played from the Division II level to the Division I FCS program, everywhere from ESPN Plus, ACC Network, ESPNU, the Griot, HBCU Go, Big Ten Network, SEC Network, NFL Network, Flow Sports, ESPN3, CIAA Network. So you can go to MyJBN, MyBCSN, I should say, where to watch your favorite games. You can check out that, and you can see this list that gives you an update of all the games, the times. It's in the Eastern Standard Time Zone throughout this weekend, and this is something that you're likely to see week to week from BCSN, the Black College Sports Network. So I wanted to give you that before we got into some discussion on some of these big games of the week. Let me break it down for you and see what direction you want to go to as we look at that. For the NCAA Division I, FCS, MEAC Independent, I have Delaware State. They're now 0-1, still have them ranked 21. We'll do our new update starting after this weekend with all the games. They're at Sacred Heart. That's a 5 p.m. game Central Standard Time on ESPN Network. You have a HBCU matchup, which I always catch my interest. This one is a MEAC versus the Colonial Coastal Athletic Association. That is Morgan State at Hampton on Flow Sports at 5 p.m. That's an intriguing matchup for me. I want to see if anybody picks that one. You have the SWAC OVC matchup. I'm quietly looking at this game here. I have number 19 Mississippi Valley State. I don't think anybody's thinking about them. They're at number 11 Tennessee State. A lot of folks believe Tennessee State may take that next step. But this is a game where Valley certainly can make a statement. And I suppose if Tennessee State pushes around Valley, they might make their own statement from that matchup. Then you have the SWAC versus Southland Conference. That's a number 15 Southern I have in the rankings preseason. They're at McNeese. That is 0-1 in terms of what they got down. They lost to Tarleton State. They were down deep in that game. Tarleton State's quarterback got hurt. And they were able to make it a close one and certainly interesting, but Tarleton State pulled it out. So McNeese comes in that matchup 0-1. Southern's on the road. Obviously, in-state game where a lot of folks would like to find a way for Southern, including HBCU fans, to get that done. Mm-hmm. Last one I'm going to jump down there, or second to the last one, I'm going to have this SWAC matchup. Conference game, as you know by now, Labor Day Classic. Number 17, Texas Southern, and number 8, Prairie View A&M University comes in this matchup. Texas Southern has not named their starting quarterback at this time. Prairie View went ahead and did that with the transfer coming in there, said he played well during the spring. But Coach McDowell said don't be surprised if multiple quarterbacks play in the game, that they've all had really good camps, and he's like what he sees at the quarterback position. We'll see if that happens on Saturday. On Sunday, you have a big matchup at the FCS level, top 5 matchup. You have number 1 North Carolina Central coming out of the MEAC, and they face number 5 Alabama State out of the SWAC. That's 2 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Fascinating to see what this game looks like. Top 5 matchup. North Carolina Central, as you know, the Eagles were predicted number 1 coming out of the MEAC, while you have Alabama State, the Hornets, predicted number 1 to come out of the East Division of the SWAC. So a lot of things going on there. Before I let you jump in and see what directions you want to go, let me give a little more in here. At the Division II level, you have some conference games, some interesting matchups. In fact, you got a top 10 matchup, top 7 to be exact. Number 4, Clark Atlanta University, Rat Poison. Game we'll see coming right out of the box as they play number 7, Fort Valley State. That is on the Griot at 2 p.m. Central Time. You have another matchup that features the number 1 preseason ranked team, the Virginia Union Panthers, at number 16, Kentucky State. That's on HBCU Go. You have the game on NFL Network, the Hall of Fame Classic, which features a top 10 matchup, number 2, Virginia State versus number 6, Benedict. We'll get to see what Benedict comes as they have a new coach. Virginia State is predicted to be at the top as they were preseason favorites of the CIAA. No longer divisions. To give you an update there, much like the SIC, there's no divisions. So top 2 teams will play each other. So we might see Virginia State and Virginia Union play, back-to-back weekends? That could be intriguing. You have number 2, Johnson C. Smith, CIAA. A lot of people think that they're going to be really good this year. So it's kind of fascinating to see what they do with the number 8, Tuskegee. It's on ESPN Red Tails. You have Edward Waters, number 12, at Morehouse. I'm not sure if that'll be a contest. That's on ESPN Plus. Number 17, Shaw, Elizabeth City. That's on CIAA Network and Blue Smithfield State travels. Number 15, Winston-Salem State, CIAA Network, the Fighting Gaithers. See if they got a chance to make a statement against Bluefield, or will he really be mad after that matchup? Wilton, since you're the guest, we're going to start with you and allow you to jump in here. Give me your first matchup that you kind of want to break down. What is really exciting to you? And you can go, obviously, in Division II. You can go FCS Division I. What game is fascinating you? Why? And what are some things that you suggest people should look out for in that game?
I'm gonna stick to Division I, and I'm gonna go Alabama State, North Carolina Central. This is the first time in several years we want to know what North Carolina Central is gonna look like without Davis Richard not at quarterback, right? So now obviously they have another quarterback coming in Walker Harris, and you start to think to yourself like, he's gonna be the starter. Is he ready to assume that role? Because that's not an easy role to take coming after a dominant quarterback like Davis Richard, and also no more Mookie Collier. So it's like, will Jamari Taylor become that guy in the rushing attack for North Carolina Central? And just to kind of see, like, will they be that same team? Obviously, Howard became, represented the MEAC last year. So we're just trying to see. I would like to see what North Carolina Central is going to look like. But then also at Alabama State, there's the idea of like, Andrew Body, of course, not being the potential of him not being the starting quarterback, what that potentially looks like. But Alabama State's defense is going to be great, in my opinion. They have a lot of starters coming back. Defensive back James Burgess, a linebacker DeMarcus Cunningham, another linebacker Rico Dozier. Definitely Dozier. Yeah. Who don't know him, that's somebody you want to circle on the roster, because you're probably going to see him having an impact in that game tremendously. Yeah. And then also you have an offensive lineman, Aurelius Dunn, and then Traquan Thomas is also on the defensive line. So I'm interested to see what this could look like. Is it put like this: when Walker Harris steps out on that field for North Carolina Central, I'm sure he has to know that he's going to face a defense that's going to be locked and loaded and ready to come after him. So I'm really intrigued to see what that game brings.
Great information. Can I get you the hedge direction, or are you not able to give any leaning of directions of who you think will come out victorious in that matchup?
I'm gonna give I'm gonna lean towards Alabama State. I don't know if that's gonna get me in trouble or not, because a safe pick for me would have been North Carolina Central. Not gonna lie. That would have been my safe pick. But I think for this first game of the season, I really would like to see Alabama State start on a high note.
I'm going to save Charles for last in this segment and allow him to stew a little bit on everybody's thoughts as he prepares to break down what he wants. With that being said, I'm going to go to Mike. Mike, what direction are you going between these matchups?
I actually wanted that one. Kind of stole my thunder there, Milton. But, I will. So I will also throw it that, Jackson State has a chance to pull off a win over an FBS team. I think, we're overlooking it. Yes, they have a first-year coach. They have a solid team. And ULM, let's just face it, they have not performed well in the last few years. So I'll understand new coach and all, still solid offense, what they can do against ULM. So that intrigues me, in addition to the Central versus Alabama State, for all the reasons Milton had. Oh, by the way, the last couple of years, Alabama State has been the number one defense. So you're bringing in a defense with a bunch of returning starters, some JUCOs, against North Carolina Central without Davius Richard as Milton. So I think that's an interesting matchup. But I think this Jackson State team, they have a chance. If they hold on, control the ball, defense is going for ULM is going to be strong, but the linebacker core needs overhauling from what you see in ULM. You look at their losses last year, they're only predicted to be a 5 or 6 win team this year. This could be a very possible solid win for Jackson State. The other one, I'm sorry, I'm going again, but sorry, you're going to have to cut my mic off, is the battle between Fort Valley State and Albany. I would be remiss. My wife, my father-in-law would say, you better say something about that. That's just a rivalry you have to watch. So let the Brunswick stew and the slow country boil down in the southeast be going at the tailgate, and I'm going to go that one as my third.
Good one. we do have another segment. We have a lot of games, but I'm sure you're still going to be able to find some other one. But Charles, as I didn't mean for you to stew that long, but your colleague over there just got excited about his matchups. So tell me what game? I guess you can have multiple too. You do like Mike and just keep it going. But what game are you fascinated by this weekend?
I think the obvious one, of course, is the Orange Blossom Classic. When you take a look at Alabama State and North Carolina Central, Davius Richard, you get a quarterback like him once every 10 years. So let's see where North Carolina Central is when you don't have that man under center. And that being said, with regards to Alabama State, they lost some pieces with regards to on the offensive side of the ball. We know they can play defense, but, healthy competition at quarterback. Will we see both quarterbacks? Or what Andrew body will we see against what is normally a very salty defense of North Carolina Central? So I think that's a huge game to sit back and kind of enjoy this weekend with on Sunday. The other one, I think Mike alluded to it. Did you know that the Vegas line on ULM and Jackson State is only 7.5?
Mm-hmm.
That
only
is,
7 points. Only 7 points. That's it.
Ace and Lefty don't get that wrong too often in terms of setting the line. Mm-hmm. So, that's very interesting. So it will be very interesting to see if Jackson State doesn't do things to beat themselves. As I talked with TC Taylor in the coach's presser, he has a lot of toys at his disposal in the running back room. And if Jackson State can control the clock and sustain some drives, and even more importantly, get in the red zone and score, that's huge. What we saw with Florida A&M, I think this was a stat that not a lot of people talked about, but out of the 4 times they were in the red zone, they scored on 3 of those opportunities. The 4th one was running out the clock. So they converted once they got into the money zone. So I think that's going to be huge when you take a look at this Jackson State ULM game. And then my D2 game, just because Dr. Cavil has shed light on Clark. Clark wanted to sneak up on folks, and Dr. Cavil won't let it happen. He's like the loud burglar. No, look at them. And Coach Keaton had to be like, hey, cut that out. I'm trying to sneak up on folks, all right? So now, obviously, we'll be looking at Clark and Fort Valley this weekend, so that should be fun.
Great analysis. Let's take our last break and come back on the other side, and we'll take a look at a couple of other games and see what other game excites these individuals. You have it there with Clark Atlanta and Fort Valley State Wildcats. Those Panthers and pesky Wildcats. Should be fascinating to see if we can get that first, what many people would see proverbially as an upset, even though I have them ranked 4. I'm just telling you. But that being said, stick with us. We'll be back on the other side.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Wilton II, as they like to call him around these parts. With that being said, let's let's get into some more of these matchups. I want to see, you talked about your game that got you the most excited, except for Mike. He listed like a half dozen. With that being said, I'm gonna go to him first and see if he can get it right this time. Now you got to go really deep in your reservoir, Mike. You got to go to your fourth game. What is your fourth game that you got on your mind that piques your interest this week?
You know I'm going to that. Oh, you know I'm going to that Labor Day Classic. PV versus TSU. That's why I listed all the other ones. This one moves up. That Labor Day Classic on the yard, on the hill. You got Euler versus Euler. Dishman versus your boy. So, why would, I think there are a couple of oddities. If you look at across the league, quarterbacks, Texas Southern has not named. Chris Dishman has refrained from naming the Tiger starter. He has returning starter and he has newcomer of the year, Chase Wilson, but he's still competing with other quarterbacks. And yesterday, PV names Lucas Coley, but you still may have multiple quarterbacks playing. You have if you've seen the Panthers play, you have a very prolific offense or good set of tools on that side with a couple of 6'3", 6'4" wide receivers that can flat out fly. You have a running game that's solid. You have a defensive line that's gained on average 3-4 inches, I would say, just at eyeball. And then you have Texas Southern, not to be outdone, coming in. You wonder what can they bring. But the question is, who's won the game the most time? Data points. There have been 79 meetings between the two. Who owns the series? Current winning streak, Prairie View, 9 from 2015 to 2015 to present. And in about half of those, the expectation was almost even, or maybe even a TSU win, but Prairie View has rounded off 9 straight. So although Texas Southern leads it, I think 44-34, Prairie View is at a winning streak of 9. So I look for that to be a classic battle. I think there are a couple of unknowns that you may see or may not see. I think you'll see some quarterback rotation. So that is my extra game of the week to watch. I'll be there tailgating, of course. So yes, sir, Bob. To the Panthers on the line.
He'll be in the suite as well. This man he knows how to have a good time. If you hadn't been able to tell. Charles, as you laughing at your buddy over there.
Hey, Mike, why don't you just say he's busting at the seams, see Lucas Coley, man? I know you excited about the quarterback that's down there. And you got 6'4" receivers on the outside. I know y'all excited.
Oh, yes. That's right.
This could be.
We even got a little dude at wide receiver. He's about 5'8", 5'9", and can fly.
Y'all got some.
Your last name is Cavil too.
Yeah. I know y'all excited, man. This could be that year.
So, Charles, what direction are you going to? What's another game that you want to look at that has your interest, and why are you peeking and having one eye on that side of things?
Albany State versus Valdosta State. I think that's a good one to keep an eye on with regards to what Albany State. We know they're going to be right in the thick of things as usual. Blue blood program in the SIAC taking on a non-conference team in Valdosta State. I think that's going to be my D2 game that I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to. And definitely, I asked, Coach Graves about this matchup going against McNeese State. They've turned over that roster quite a bit. You mentioned the loss to Tarleton State, but they picked up a huge find in terms of the quarterback, Clifton McDowell transferring from Montana State to McNeese State. So, I think Southern fans are ready to see this Southern football team. They got the guy that they wanted in there, and we'll see what happens this weekend.
fascinated with this matchup. I'm glad you picked that up there. You got two HBCU alum going after it head to head, although Valdosta State is not a HBCU, but they're led by Tremaine Jackson. Speaking of Texas Southern University, that's his alma mater, if you would. And then you have the legendary Coach Gray over there, who made it to a championship game. And I'm sure he's looking to push things to the next level. Fascinating to see in terms of this matchup. Valdosta State bounced back last year, made the playoffs on their side. So intriguing to kind of see that non-conference matchup at the beginning of the year at the Division II level. Good one, Charles. Wilton Jackson, what direction are you going with your second game that you're keeping your eyes on?
So I'm gonna mention two like Mike, but I ain't gonna spend too much time like Mike did.
That's fair. That's fair since he's changing the narrative. Charles snuck in two there too. So all right, what you want to do?
I'm gonna give you one of the curve a little bit, but no, that first one is definitely probably for me gonna be FAMU and South Carolina State. And if y'all remember, I've been kind of sneaky high on South Carolina State, even in the rankings when we were going through the rankings. And so, obviously we get a Chinnisberry, coaching in his first game. We know all the recruits and the players that he brought into the program. And so it's really going to be interesting to see with those type of recruits that he brought in the coach that Chinnisberry is, will he get his players to be able to play and really bring back that strong tradition that we've seen South Carolina State hold? And especially you got a FAMU team that's coming off of a close win against Norfolk State. Obviously FAMU gets another MEAC opponent. And so will those adjustments be made in a week to where, because if I'm South Carolina State, I'm looking like, oh, Norfolk State ran the ball right smack down the teeth of your defense in the first half. And obviously FAMU made the adjustments, but if I'm South Carolina State, I'm looking to try to duplicate some of that same success. So I'm very interested to see what adjustments he makes coming into this game and basically what Chinnisberry is going to be able to do to potentially get that upset. That's the first game. The next one I got to go with obviously Clark Atlanta. I mean, just the fact that, so many people, I guarantee if they were to win this game, I promise you everybody would lose it. They would say, you know what, Dr. Cavil, you picked them high and Coach Keith got on you, and it's like they ended up winning the game. Do I know they're going to win the game? Right now, I don't know. But at the same time, I'm just intrigued to see. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna watch it just to see what happens.
This is the power of the dean. I tell you, he can make stuff happen. Right here on the Black College Sports Network, Jerome G. Sutton brought out the National Battle of the Bands. I got to see that. Flew back first thing Sunday morning with my son and had some quality time with him. He wanted to make sure he saw all the bands. He ranked it. He gave a shout out to Prairie View, Bethune-Cookman. He had Bethune-Cookman with the edge. And then he said later after he saw Prairie View that they were able to jump over him in that matchup. In terms of the MEAC SWAC Challenge, I thought FAMU won the halftime 51-49. But I thought Norfolk State stole the show in terms of the zero quarter. In the fifth quarter, I was coming in there, and I thought FAMU jumped out of there. And then the Legion did their thing. And I was like, oh, my goodness. They told me, and I knew it. Really? And I was like, FAMU, come on, FAMU.
Legion called. Legion is
FAMU came back with a song. Really? Then the Legion did their thing. And then FAMU kind of went off script, and I was like, oh, that's not the time for that. Not the time for that. Now, Jerome G. Sutton, you are in the band, so you can give me a little more analysis and tell me what I'm missing. But I had to give the edge to the Spartans, the Legion. Got it done. I was
the Legion said we ain't have none of that.
But in terms of the 10th anniversary of the Battle of the Bands did not let you down. I got to see our alma mater in there, Langston, in terms of the head band director was sitting up there this year. They were not into the competition, so he got to just sit back and relax. I thought the uniqueness of having Miles and Tuskegee there. Tuskegee did a great job, Pokey, in terms of recognizing him. I thought that was good. But the Miles, in terms of the sound, they just bring it, and we're a little too much for Tuskegee in terms of that matchup. In terms of the teams that got it done, none of the other ones let you down, but it's a fine line, and there's a win and a loss. in terms of the top program. I thought you had to give it to Bethune-Cookman. I'll agree with Deuce in terms of Prairie View. I love the star on the drum majors for Texas Southern University. When they flip around on the Cape, that star really speaks to the Lone Star. I thought they were in it, but I have to give the edge again to Jackson State and Southern. And so I have just at fifth, just outside of that, is Texas Southern. But it was really close in terms of what went down there. A lot of good matchups, but that's top four programs I had coming out of those matchups in terms of extremely entertaining, in terms of see what's going on. Some of the mixing in terms of what they had in terms of entertainment between the matchups. The battles in the stands were very good in terms of what took place there. But as I said, this is not a fan vote. You got to participate. You got to have matchups. That means there's a winner and a loss in terms of the marching sport, as we like to call it over here. So y'all can have all your little championships. You can have all your little fan votes. You can do all that little stuff. But on this side here, the marching sport, it's a winner and a loser. And we'll start to letting you know how those rankings go throughout the season in terms of we bring on some experts to tell me how much I know about the marching sport. With that being said, we're going to close it out. It's been a great one here in terms of what we got done today. I look forward to this big weekend, a lot of games. Be safe, enjoy yourself. Watch them on television, turn them on. If you're not there, make sure you get to the game, get out there and tailgate and have some good food. Be safe. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from Inside the Lab in the college of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Wilton Jackson II. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday. We'll be back on Thursday to give you some more matchups to break down and keep your eyes on. And we are looking at starting things up on Sunday as well. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Facebook and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, and we will move forward. Continue to move forward. Wilton, if you want to come back.
Come on, what you got to say, Wilton?
Never mind. That'd be nice. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Wilton.
Lecture.
Mike.
Yeah, Wilton, dismissed.
Great job, Wilton.